There are over 1.5 million adopted and foster children in America today. From a rebellious and cold momentum of bestowment to a deliverance of true unconditional love, the realization of the purpose for a better life and unimaginable benevolence paved the way to acceptance for these 4 lives.
I didn't always know that I was adopted, and I guess I kind of found it out in a real interesting way.
I was adopted when I was 18 months old by my father. My mother and my father got married and he adopted me and then proceeded to have 2 children, which is my brother and sister.
My history for adoption, actually, I was born in Tarboro, North Carolina. My mom, biological mom, couldn't take care of me, so she actually got on the bus, drove to Washington, D.C. We had some relatives there, evidently, a lady that taught at Howard University, her cousin. My biological mom thought that I'd have more opportunities in D.C., and that's kind of how I ended up in D.C. And the rest, I guess, so I guess that's it.
Well, in the beginning, it wasn't that good because, we have some families that, are not, family-oriented. It's just about, what it can be, as far as money and that's concerned, being in the system. And then you have, like the family that I ended up with that were actually caring people.
My parents always told us that we were adopted, but we didn't really get any details on the adoption itself. They just always were honest with us about the fact that we were adopted.
I found out when I was 14. I was leaving church and my mother, the sermon was about divorce and things like that, and so she sat me down and thought that was a great time to tell me that you've been adopted by your father when you were young. My first reaction was a little angry. I felt like they had a secret from me and I was really confused. I was 14, teenager. I sorted through it and I realized that I'm blessed and it wasn't a bad thing because I have someone who loves me more than anything else in the world.
I was actually 6 years old. My family and I were watching Different Strokes, and it came up during the show, obviously, since Willis and the 2 boys were adopted. I think that's what started the whole conversation.
I don't remember a whole lot about the experience because I was so young. I just know that I was went into the system, foster care system, at 5 years old, and I moved from around 4 times before I found the home that I was actually raised by, mother and father, a married couple, I should say, and that's where I stayed at till I moved out.
Placement settings can be challenging and therefore demand extensive processes for the well-being of both the adoptive parents and children, inspiring a bond which can never be broken.
It was a good relationship. I felt comfortable calling them, mom and dad, all the way up until I moved. So it was as close to parents as you can get, I would say.
But then it kind of changed into like a bigger respect for my father because he never treated me like I was adopted or I wasn't different from my brother and sister. So I never even noticed. Like, they don't consider me adopted. He never even thinks of me as an adopted child. He thinks of me as his own. So.
Actually, since my mom's passed away the last couple years, it's gotten a lot tighter. But my dad's always been there, but it's been more of a, fatherly, this is what you gotta do. I mean, he did give me hugs, he did give me kisses, because my mom wanted us to be a family, and that's kind of the way we showed it, through affection. But my dad and I have always been tight, but it's amazing how much you can become closer to a family member, even after a tragedy. But that's actually brought us closer.
She instilled all the values in me that are needed to become a professional woman, a loving mother, And let's see, everything that I needed to become the woman that I am today. She gave me all that, which I hope I passed on to my children.
Admitting and accepting biological parents can be a venture, challenging to overcome. The displacement of birth parents can settle, and the acknowledgement of replacements can emerge without hassle. Only if and when the introduction of biological parents and family can cause psychological destruction, for some minimal, for others inevitable hatred.
When I was adopted, my adopted mother and my biological grandmother made a verbal agreement to stay in contact with one another so that my grandmother could know how I was doing. So my mother was constantly keeping her abreast of, my development and how I was doing and all of those things. And so when I would go to where they lived, we would go over and we'd just hang out with them, and I'd get to see these people, and I had no idea they were my family. My parents chose not to tell me because they didn't want to be unfair to my two adopted sisters who didn't have the opportunity to know about their family.
Actually, when I found out I was adopted, I kind of felt, I just was curious about it. I didn't really feel like I needed to find anybody because I had two wonderful parents. The only curiosity I think I had was, did I have any brothers and sisters? Because I was an only child. I did like being an only child, but in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe I've got a sister, maybe I've got a brother, which I thought was kind of cool. So I think the only thing I thought about was just the curiosity of the additional siblings that I might have.
As an adopted kid, you always fantasize about what it's like. You make up kind of stories in your head and what it'd be like the day that you meet them. And I mean, I'm sure there's kids out there that probably don't, but there's always an aspect of it that leaves you wondering and fantasizing a little bit about it.
Actually, in about 2002, I was a little older, and my mom says, well, as you're getting older, as you're dating these women and you're trying to settle down and get ready to get married and all these different things, you need to understand what's in your history of your family. The only way to do that was to actually meet your family. So my mom actually had an attorney do all the paperwork. I was adopted out of District of Columbia in DC. The only way to actually open up sealed document records was to prove and have a probable reason to open the case. So the attorney wrote the case that I needed to do it for family purposes. They opened it up, they opened the records, they contacted my biological mother, and we all got in the car to go down to North Carolina.
I mean, the biggest question is, why were you adopted? Especially being in our family circumstances, my half-sister and my half-brother were adopted by my grandmother. So they all stayed within the family unit, and me being the middle child, I didn't quite understand why I had been adopted outside of the family. So that was the big question for me, is why was I adopted? What happened to my parents? Why, it's just a lot of whys, a lot of curiosity about, circumstances. And my adopted parents could only give me so much information, so it was really about filling in the pieces there.
On the way down, I thought a lot about my mom. I thought a lot about all the work, all the love, everything that she put into me. And I'm going to meet this woman, and although she's my biological mother, I don't have any ties to her. So what I was more concerned about was what my mom was going to feel, what she thought, making sure that she wasn't hurt in any way, shape, or form. But I was also still curious about the process and how I got to be where I was, and honestly, to see if I had any brothers and sisters. So I had a little conflict, but I wanted to make sure my mom, the woman who raised me, was okay.
Allowing the gratification of giving what one has never had, felt, or known can relinquish the same or sometimes better love than natural parents. Flourishing in the excitement and appreciation of their own experiences, a question of would you adopt and why has been raised.
I would love to adopt. It's expensive. It's very expensive to adopt. They kind of go through all the steps of just making sure you're okay. You have to pay certain fees depending where you adopt, but it's worth every minute to make one child happy. And there's so many unhappy children in the world that I'm thankful that people are willing to adopt.
Oh, definitely. The wife and I are actually talking about it now, so hopefully we can do it really, really soon. I think it's a phenomenal thing to do. I think more people should do it. I'm just blessed. God put me in a phenomenal spot with two great people. Couldn't have asked to be. He knew what he was doing, and I needed those two people. Otherwise, I could have been lazy. I could have been doing other stuff, but I think it's a phenomenal process.
For all of the, rockiness that my life has given me, for all of the story of the biological family, and for all of the distance that the foster family provided or was created as a result, I'm not particularly close to them now, but I understand that they provided for me an opportunity that I wouldn't have otherwise had, namely to survive. I mean, I was a really, really, really sick baby. And it was my foster mother, who eventually became my adopted mother, that ended up saving my life. She's the one who pushed to get me to the hospital, and I ended up in surgery for 6 months, on and off. So that in and of itself provided me with a platform that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And if I could give that back to another child, absolutely, hands down, would do it in a heartbeat.
I would consider adoption because I would love to give a child that may have experienced what I did, give them the joy of living the life that I had to live. I wouldn't want another child to go through some of the things that I had to. It was emotional at times, and it still is in a sense. It can be. You sit and you think about how things were, then, and I try to, explain to my kids that you just don't know. You should be appreciative of the things that you have, the parents that you do have, because sometimes, oh man, it can be really, heartbreaking to think that you were almost like thrown away, in a sense. So to have that opportunity to, give another child that kind of life, I would do, yes.